really happy that today we are here together and we start our annual conference for youth about sustainable development. And today it's really international and, as I have said, the most unusual conference we have ever had. And actually, that's why we don't have like stable agenda. And I like just welcome any speaker, just participate, raise a hand, or give me a sign that you want to join us and to make a speech, because actually we can, for the latest moment, we cannot predict who will join and if we have the opportunity to make it online at all. So I think, Yulia, you will make some like official welcoming speech, like for open, like make it real.
So,
well, maybe, good morning, everybody. Maybe I'll just say a couple of words. I just wanted to say a welcome from Exenda School of Management. There are a few of us here, Garima's faculty, Louis and myself, are directors at the Exenda School of Management, and we're really happy to be here. We really are just amazed at the resilience here in the Ukraine, you know, in terms of you're willing to continue with education, which is so vital for this world. So we're happy to be here. And again, on behalf of the Exenda School of Management, thank you for inviting us.
thank you. May I also greet everyone on behalf of administration of Ukrainian-American Concordia University, and extend our great thankfulness to all our friends, partners, who during these very difficult 9 months of the war against Russian severe aggression, not only military but civilian, and the great damages that Ukraine is sacrificing during this 9 months, and well, we would not survive if we didn't have this great help in all spheres, beginning from military and ending with social aid, where of course education is one of the most, because if we manage to save our spheres working and giving opportunities to our students to study and our faculty to work and to get salaries, and universities to pay taxes to the Ukrainian budget, it's what helps Ukraine now in all spheres. Also, the university is helping the army directly. We made 2 investments to the military foundation, just helping to buy military stuff, also buying some things to help the occupied territories now who are in great need of all the necessary basics, just essentials, because people are lack of water, people are lack of electricity, people are lack of food, transportation, everything. So all of us trying to help them as much as possible, and we are grateful to all of us who today are with us. Not many people, most are not Ukrainians. Those who are Ukrainians are from other countries. From Ukraine now, whom I see is Paul Thomas, managing to be with us. Well, so we continue working, university continue to teach students to do all the necessary procedures, to go through accreditation procedures. So everything like in usual life, but in a very unusual way, of course. And it's a great school. It's like the new university for all of us, for all Ukraine. Ukrainian people have become very united during this struggle, just helping each other, doing well most unbelievable things just to endure this aggression. But also Ukraine has become so much united with the rest of the world. Naturally with Europe, because it's very close to us and bordering with us, and you know that even Poland was already involved in this severe war, and Europe understands that Ukrainian, with the help of the world, is struggling not only for Ukrainian way of development, for democracy and for values, but also for all European countries' values. But also we have been united with the whole world. Canada, United States, other Australia countries which are so far from us, well, now became so close to us. To our students easily attend classes at our partner universities, the Sander, at Concordia University, Wisconsin, at German universities, British University. So, well, Ukraine will take all the advantages of these possibilities, and I think that it's also very enriching not only Ukrainian students and faculty, but other countries, our partners, because we are eager to share our experience, and only together we can win. So thank you so much for being with us, for sharing our troubles, our success, our being brave. Well, you encourage us a lot, and it's very, very important. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would like to add that we really would like to say big thanks to all our partners. And today also we can see our partners from Canada, from America, from Germany, Turkey, Great Britain, and your helpful very mean a lot to us. So now maybe we would like to give the word to Neil Moore, the president of Accenda University Institute of Management. We have organized already with them a lot of courses, and our students really involved to different courses, and they like those courses. Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you, Natalia and Lubov and Julia and others. It's wonderful to be able to get together like this, because I think it's the although it's virtual, the human interaction is really what helps to solve and build understanding in the world, solve problems and build understanding. We're really happy to be here, and I know there's a number of my colleagues here from Accenda today, and we see a variety of students. We've been very, very honored to be a partner with Concordia, and to be able to work and involve many students from Concordia in our classes. It's meant a lot to our students as well to have this connection, and it really brings the challenges that are being faced right now very much to our lives as well, and we're happy to do whatever we can to help and support you. It's interesting, and I really applaud Concordia for their resilience throughout all of the challenges that you are facing. I can't even imagine as an institution having to face the day-to-day challenges that you have to continue your operations, and I think it's just incredible, and you have such an amazing group. Plus also stay focused on the important challenges of our globe. I mean, despite all that's going on, taking the time to really consider and focus on the environment is so important. So anyway, we're very, very thrilled to be here today, and thank you for this invitation, and we'll look forward to a wonderful conference.
Thanks a lot, and now I hope that Paul Thomas, it's more just our friend and partner. It's part of our university, and I hope he can join us. I know that he was prepared a small speech, but Paul to hear us because Paul is in Kiev and has problems with connection. Okay, yeah, I think not yet. So as soon as for today, as I announced earlier, I cannot prepare the proper agenda with a clear cue who will present first. I just welcome you just to start because I don't know who prepared. I have one presentation that have been sent to email by our students, and she was so determined to present, so she sent the videos. Unfortunately, it's not also be possible for everybody, but now I think that we will get a floor to Accenture, because I know for sure that you have at least one presentation. I hope that even more.
Yes, good morning from our side here in Canada to everyone, and thank you. It is an honor to be here with everyone, and honestly, for me, it's a platform I want to give to my students. I want them to connect, and I want them to know that despite all the unusual things that are happening around us, there is ways we can connect with each other, and there's ways we can be like, you know what, this is a new norm, and we will try to make the best of it. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my team today that will be presenting for everyone here at the Sustainable Development Youth Conference. I have Joseph, who is our student, Diana, again, one of our students, and Sylvia. So I'm gonna see if I can start sharing my screen. Just give me 1 second, everyone. Please let me know if you are seeing the slides exactly and not the other part of it, the
Perfect.
notes and the other. I managed to do it in one go. I'm very proud of myself for that one. I always mess it up. So today we welcome you to join us on our presentation, which we titled Game On. And it will be presented by the students Diana, Joseph, Sylvia, and I myself, Garima, will be the facilitator. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that our school, Accenture School of Management, is located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations people. Land acknowledgements are a custom here in Canada. It is our way to acknowledge that these lands are originally belonging to the First Nations people who have been residing here since the beginning. We are but settlers coming in to develop our lives here on these beautiful lands. We have a very brief agenda for everyone. We will go through a round of introductions, give a background on the Climate Action Certificate Program. That is our main goal for today. My students will talk about the drawdown framework, the 4 levels of action plan before they delve into their own projects that they developed for this course. And then we'll have a short Q&A session as well. So to begin with, I would like to ask my team to introduce themselves quickly, and we'll begin with Sylvia.
Hello, everybody. My name is Silvia Pichardo. I'm from Mexico. I'm currently in my 2nd term in marketing concentration. I have always been interested in climate change, so this workshop that Accenture bring me an excellent opportunity to learn more about it. Now, my colleague, Joseph.
Thank you, Silva. Hello, everybody. It's really an honor to be with all of you. It's really refreshing to see so many people interested in this kind of topics. My name is Joseph Nateras. I'm also from Mexico. I'm on my second last term here at Accenda. I'm studying international business management, and I have a bit of a background in sustainable development. Back in Mexico, I used to study engineering on sustainable development, so I'm very into this kind of topics. And I also, back in Mexico, I used to work in the recycling industry. I worked in the industry for 8 years. And let me welcome you everybody to our presentation. And now it's turn to my colleague Diana.
Thank you, Joseph. Hi, my name is Diana Zuniga, and I am a student of hospitality management at Accenda. This is my third term, and in Mexico, I worked as an event planner around 4 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And lastly, I'm Garima. I'm the manager of the English Language Center. And the interesting thing for me to be here is that I actually joined the Climate Action Certificate Program as a student. So I studied with students and then I came back to it as a facilitator. So it really feels an honor for me to be able to represent not only Accenda, but the course itself, because I worked with the organization that offered it with us. And so let's go back to our share screen. And to set the tone, let's watch a quick video.
Karima, we're not hearing the sound.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know. Let's see what's going on here. From my side, it's showing it's connected. Okay.
Garima, if I may offer a suggestion,
Yes,
you need
please.
to share with sound. There's a
Okay,
little key, yeah.
Okay, share sound. Now let's see if this works. Thank you so much, Louis. Now do we have the sound?
Some call me nature.
Yes.
Yes.
What's going on?
Others call me Mother Nature. I've been here for over 4.5 billion years. 22,500 times longer than you. I don't really need people, but people need me. Yes, your future depends on me. When I thrive, you thrive. When I falter, you falter. Or worse. But I've been here for eons. I have fed species greater than you, and I have starved species greater than you. My oceans, my soil, my flowing streams, my forests, they all can take you or leave you. How you choose to live each day, whether you regard or disregard me, doesn't really matter to me. One way or the other. Your actions will determine your fate, not mine. I am nature. I will go on. I am prepared to evolve. Are you?
Goosebumps every time I see this video. So just to set the context, this is one of the videos that is shared with all students taking the workshop, and it is the introductory video. It is to tell us that we are not the ones in power. We don't control nature. The Climate Action Certificate Program was offered to students, faculty, and staff members at Exenda and to our partner schools in conjunction with a grassroots level organization, Drawdown BC, that worked under Project Drawdown. Project Drawdown is basically based in the United States, with Paul Hawkins' book inspiring it, that came out, that said that we have the most comprehensive plan to combat the climate crisis. Taking it on, his team of researchers came up with solutions and ways to fight this crisis, and Drawdown was born out of it. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Joseph to walk us through a bit of the technical terminology that we will be using throughout our presentations with everybody. Joseph?
Thank you, Garima. Okay, we will talk now a bit about the drawdown framework for climate solutions. But before we understand the framework itself, it is important for us to understand the term drawdown. Is, as you have now in your screens, drawdown is the future point in time when levels of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere stop climbing and start a steady decline. This is the point where we begin the process of stopping further climate change and averting potential catastrophic warning. It is a critical turning point for life on Earth, according to Project Drawdown. As we have a bit of a background from our video, it is important for us that we come to this point of reverse the current trend of the emission of greenhouses that is getting the environment into severe decline, not because the Earth, as the video says, need it, but because us as a civilization, we need it. We need very specific conditions to foster very specific conditions for our civilization to thrive and continue. And with this on mind, this now is the drawdown framework. In order to reach the drawdown action, in order to reach this point in time that we call drawdown, we need actions to be taken on 3 levels. These are the 3 levels: reduce sources, support sinks, and improve society. Reduce sources, it means reduce sources of greenhouse emissions. It is how we can generate electricity, how we cultivate our land, how we make our food, how industry process everything, and all these have emissions of greenhouses. So the first thing is to reduce these emissions. The second one is to support sinks. That is to improve the quality of the environment, because vegetation, and especially in the oceans, there are a lot of algae that as a vegetation capture this CO2, capture these greenhouse emissions. So this is the second part. And the third one will be improve society, because through health, education, and equality for all, we can improve not only our way of living, but our way to live with nature, to commute with our environment, to be part of it and not to feel above it. And with this better understanding, we can have a severe impact towards the drawdown goals. Thank you. As individuals, we can select any one of the 3 levels that will help us to reach the point of drawdown. But in order for it to work, we need to have an action plan. Now, Sylvia will guide us to this action plan.
Yes, an action plan allows us to situate our chosen solution to work at 4 distinct stages. They are individual actions, family and friend actions, community, local institutions, and business actions, and lastly, law and policy actions.
Now that all of us understand a bit of the terminology and have an idea of what drawdown is, I will now welcome my students to present their final projects that they were developed for this program. First up is Diana.
Hi, everyone. I will share with you my experience in the Climate Action Certificate. As Sylvia showed us, we learned how to develop an action plan. And we also learned different types of solutions that we can apply to contribute with the environment. With this knowledge, I prepared a proposal of an event to foster women education. It can be incredible, but lack women's education can affect the way of how society act regarding the environment. Because women play an essential role in the family's nucleus. With this in mind, this festival includes different activities to empower women with different conferences, and include activities to get family integration, such as plant-based cooking class, family planning talk, gardening workshop, and activities of recycling and other environment educational activities. The main goals of this festival are that women can find themselves. Women can get involved in their families, and all of them can learn having fun. My favorite part of the climate change certificate was the final project, because my classmates and I could share our ideas and solutions for problems that we usually have in our lives. So this leads me to think that the acquisition of knowledge is the key to transforming the world. Now we will continue with Joseph's project.
Thank you, Diana. Okay, since I have background on sustainable development, the main topics introduced in the workshop were not that new to me, but the workshop itself brought me a unique learning experience by working in a more practical way and in a more move forward way. Because usually as a society and as individuals, when we face these very big problems that affect us in so many ways, we can easily feel overwhelmed. And this leads us to a freeze state where we are stunned and we cannot do much about it. So the workshop is focused on the game on philosophy, that instead of being a game over, that this is going to end us all, this is the opportunity for us to start and move into it. So with this philosophy in mind for the workshop, for my panel project, I proposed something related to recycling, because that's where my expertise area, and specifically for the polyethylene terephthalate plastic, that is the PET that we all know, that is very common in our daily lives. On every time you buy a bottle of water, soda, every time you buy strawberries or something that comes in these transparent packages, it's in our daily lives. So, because this is the most widely used plastic commercially and industrially, we have a lot to say in the recycling process. For starters, I like to use a motto that we have here in Vancouver, or at least the disposal system have here in Vancouver. When you go to a bin, the bin says, "Bins don't do sorting, you do." So with this into consideration, I took the motto and we put it here that bins don't do the recycling, you do. And my project is focused particularly on one aspect of the recycling process, that is the impact from the end user in the entire recycling process. Because when bottles arrive at the recycling plants with some product within the bottle, that is when someone puts any kind of trash inside the bottle before disposing it, it is discarded as a pollutant because it's not longer suitable for recycling. So another aspect is that if the end user crushes the bottle and compacts it, as in the picture we have now, it reduces from 20 to 30% of its volume. And this means simultaneously reducing transportation costs and time. And this can be translated into a reduction of emissions. A small action on the part of the consumers can define whether or not the product they have in their hands is properly recycled. A very simple action like not putting anything inside the bottle or crushing it can decide whether the bottle you have or the plastic you have in your hand ends up like a new bottle after recycling or ends up in the ocean or in a landfill. So my project focused on a community in Mexico that is called Los Reyes La Paz. That's the community where I used to work. And I went there to promote good practices for proper recycling management among local government and elementary schools. I went to elementary schools that gathers the PET bottles and then sells them to explain to how the recycle process and in the impact of doing this crushing of the bottle and leaving it empty. I also went to a small business that buy the bottles and then resell it to some bigger centers to explain them the economic benefits of collecting the bottles, of collecting the crushed bottles, because this will mean a reduction on their transportation times and the transportation costs, but for everybody it means a reduction of the emissions. In terms of my experience with the workshop, it was very different from a regular class, since it is not mandatory. Only people with a genuine interest in the subject enroll. This also brings to us in the workshop instructors and staff, faculty, that gives to the conversation a higher level of engagement and maybe even a more mature group conversation. While having a practical project, the one that we are presenting, allow us to feel and see a real impact towards the drawdown goal. Thank you. Now I will ask Silvia to share her project with us.
Thank you, Joseph. The Climate Action Certification workshop helps to understand the current situation regarding the climate change. It learning that it's not too late to execute different climate solutions available for us to apply as individuals, in our family, community, city, and make it grow if we are willing to do so. My project focuses on the third level of action. It's improving society. As a mother of a girl and as a woman, it is alarming for me to realize that there is 62 million girls around the world from realizing their right to education. So my action plan in the individual field is to provide open education to my daughter involve my husband in her education and raising her in an environment of equality and equity, keep myself continuous educating, and hold the talk by empowering my daily life decisions. My family and friend action is to make sure that all the girls and women around me have access to all education levels. Empower the girls and women near to me. Share knowledge with my friends by explaining them how educated girls contribute to economic growth and greater upward mobility. The community actions will be provide reproductive health care and early age in schools, allow access to high quality family planning, destigmatize the reproduction and marriage, that reproduction and marriage are the only roles for women in society. The policy action will be create specialized abortion clinics in every city of Mexico and separate religion from sexual education. Our world needs people with new leadership that promotes unity, no fear, and no division, and encourage teamwork for a better world. I would like to share with you this quote by Helen Keller that for me summarized what I learned from this workshop. Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much. Thank you very much.
Now we will have the pictures of the celebration. These are some pictures of the celebration for concluding the workshop. From the workshop 2021 and 2022. And these are the references.
If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask us.
Yeah, I can ask a question if you hear me well.
Please go. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, one of your teammates was talking about the plant-based glass, if I'm not mistaken. Can you please elaborate on that topic? I'm just very curious on how this glass is developed and manufactured and so on.
I believe she was referring to a plant-based diet, not a glass. Are you referring to Diana's Festival of Learning, or are we talking about Joseph's recycling one and he just covered the plastic PET?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I mixed up some terms. I was talking about the Joseph part, yeah.
Okay,
the
Joseph,
recycling
would you
part.
like to take this on?
Sure. Regarding bioorganic plastic, it was not plant-based glass. We can nowadays manufacture in most of the countries plant-based plastic, especially the PET, because it's somewhat like the recycling. Usually when you use recycled plastic to form new bottles or new any material, you cannot use 100% recycled plastic because it doesn't have the same consistency, the same density. So usually you can find a mix of virgin plastic and organic plastic, like the one that come from the avocado seed, the one that come from bananas, the one that come from coconuts. It's just that you mix virgin plastic and the organic one to compose any new material. I don't know of any specific company that make glass out of organic plastic. Usually are products that don't have a very long lasting life, because of course when you put organic plastic into any product, it's meant to be degraded, right? So when you use glass, like for windows or any other product, we use glass because it's very enduring, because it can be held for a long period of time. So when we use organic plastic to make something like cups or like plates or something like that, is with the consideration that you want it to degrade, that you are not expecting a long period of time for that product. So I hope this answered your question, or if you have anything further.
No. Yeah, thank you very much. That was an extensive answer. As I said, I just mixed up the terms at the beginning. So yeah, that was a 100% beautiful answer. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Yeah, I have one question. I think it's also for Joseph, as he's into recycling, into this stuff, but it's more about maybe sustainable development tools. So how do you think which country from all over the world should start implementing sustainable development? It would have the biggest impact to the world to move our overall sustainable development of the world to another step.
Okay. First, I would like to make clear what sustainable development is. Sustainable development is when a society can fulfill its needs and can develop without compromising the next generation to do the same, right? But it has to have three main aspects into consideration: the social, the environmental, and the economic part. So if you don't cover these three parts, it is not truly sustainable development. With that in mind, there is very great discussion about exactly what you are asking, because of course the countries that are, let's say, the wealthier are the ones that have polluted the most, because they have reached this wealth through industrialization and of course pollution. And now there is this claim that a lot of developing countries are having a bigger part in this polluting aspect, but there is no consensus. There is not a final word or on which country should have the most efforts towards this. Of course, some say that those that have the highest emission of pollutants per capita are the ones that needs to get hands into this problem the most. We also could think that those countries with the most inhabitants are the ones that have most to say into this, because they have more people. You can think that they have most pollutants, but in reality the pollution and the emission of greenhouse gases per capita is not. For example, usually United States have a higher rate of consumption and emission of gases than China, per capita, that is, per person. So in terms of sustainable development, this kind of statistics doesn't show us the whole picture, because reducing your emittance is not enough. Because if you usually, when you ask for a country to reduce their pollution, that means to reduce their industrialization level and their development rate. You are not asking them to. You are asking them to contract their economy, to slow down their economic progress, and this goes exactly against what sustainable development is, because you need to reduce pollution and you need to integrate society, you also need to improve their economic status. So it is not that easy to answer, because there is no final answer on this. Actually, what has been proved to have more impact is when we focus on more local communities and not an entire country. Because at least from Mexico, or now that I live in Canada, when you say Mexico, you are not really putting all the people together in the same situation, right? Because countries, at least Mexico and Canada, are very big. So the people that live in the north is not the same that the people that live in the south. They don't have the same customs. They don't have the same level on consumption. They don't have the same level to access to water, to land use. Yes. And we are very interconnected, but we are not all the same. So in terms of sustainable development, it's very interesting that there is a trend to bring forward the more traditional ways. Like, for example, in Mexico, the indigenous people have this very ancestral concept that is called el buen vivir, the good living, something like that, that it's practically sustainable development. In their own words, is how to make a community to live in tune with the natural cycles. And this really integrates more what sustainable development is. Because when you live with the natural cycles in your community, in your surroundings, you need to respect how much water you can use, because you need to respect the cycle of the water recycling itself. Because you need to respect the land use, you cannot overexploit it, and you will respect how much you can harvest and leave the lands to rest so you can later come on. And in terms of the economic, when you have a small community, there are a lot of small communities in Mexico that don't integrate into the national currency, that they have their own small little currencies, and they are a bit more close, but they still have trade with the rest of Mexico. But these small economic currencies are easier to be well managed, to foster equality and equal growth in the entire community. So it's harder to do that in a national level, where you can find a lot of disparity, a lot of inequality, and especially a lot of unequal access to the resources. Because if we state one policy that everybody should pollute this amount or consume water this amount, it is not fair for the people that have access to a river. Well, it is not fair for the people that doesn't have access to that river, that use the same amount of water that the people that do. So it's a bit tricky to say that one country has more responsibility than the others, or that one country can improve this more than the others. First, because each country is very complex and diverse, and secondly, because in this global system, it doesn't matter if you pollute in China, you will have the repercussions in your own country. It doesn't matter if the rivers start drying in Mexico, because it will affect the United
Joseph,
States.
I just need to ask you to be more precise, because unfortunately we have some limitation. I know that
Anyway,
this
it
is
was
a topic that
a
we
really
can-
wide and constructed answer.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
okay,
Yeah.
in this
I'm done,
case,
sorry.
you will take
Yeah,
the
it's
floor
okay.
next. And please, who have opportunity to join the conference and want to make a speech, please write your names in the chat.
Well, if you don't mind, I can be in next.
Sure, go ahead, everyone.
Okay, I will be the second one.
Okay, thanks.
Jumped into this.
Okay, but yeah, wait, I need to figure out with my internet. Give me 15 seconds, please. I'm connecting with another device.
Can you hear me well right now?
No.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I might even turn on the camera. Okay, so my topic was about the Ukraine's after-war economic recovery, and yeah, basically I did the report about that, and now I'm gonna show you the presentation. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah, great. So, as I said, after-war economic recovery. Here, this presentation won't be too long. I won't be getting into like big details according to that topic. I just want you to understand the overall holistic picture of what does it take to rebuild such a big and prosperous country as Ukraine, but to rebuild it from the from the position that our country is unfortunately at right now. First, the topic of the rehabilitation of our country is, of course, connected with the finance. And the first question when it comes to rebuilding anything is who will pay for it? Experts from International Monetary Fund estimate that the cost to rebuild Ukraine after the war with the current amount of damage, so not including anything that comes further, will cost about $1 trillion of US dollars. That's a tremendous amount, and there are actually some candidates who already voted for rebuilding Ukraine. These are European Union communities, United States, United Nations, and many other international organizations who will vote in, and not only with hands but also with their money and finances to the fund that will rebuild our country. But I have a better question for you. Everyone is discussing right now who will pay for that, who will supply finances and stuff. But I think, and I emphasize, that the way more important question is who will manage that? Well, when it comes to managing, our country is not the best, let's be frank, our country is not the best place to invest and to allocate your finances in terms of when you want the return rate to be the highest. Recovery lies in reformation. What I'm trying to say is that Ukraine is the third most corrupt nation in Europe, behind Russia and Azerbaijan, according to Transparency International. I know that data might sound very harsh, and that is not what we are used to hear right now when it comes to bravery, when it comes to fighting for our democracy. That's all true, but I also think that as a person who truly loves the country, who had to leave my home in Donetsk in 2014, and now I had to leave my home again, I want the recovery process to be fair, and I want it to be the most transparent as possible. And that's why I think that we really right now should consider such facts, even if they somehow disrupt our mind. First, reforms must begin even as humanitarian and reconstruction activities pick up the pace. So we shouldn't wait until all the finances were allocated, and then we are going to make some more reforms that will manage those finances and redistribute them to different places in our country. Reforms must begin as soon as possible. And of course, I'm not a professional governmental manager. I don't have a degree in public policy, but from my personal perspective, I think that reforming our country is the thing that we also should consider right now. Although we still have fights on our borders, although we have still thousands and thousands of square kilometers to liberate, we must have some amount of people right now in our country and government who will already be thinking in advance about the situation that will going to happen after our victory. Also, I added the point about lengthy road to EU membership. I know that you're all guys aware of all the not restrictions, but all the responsibilities that we face in terms of beginning our path to EU. We have thousands and thousands of things to do right now, and that's the road that's not a we are so used to being sprinters. Like, we are so used to allocate our resources and then push forward and then stop and get our results. But that's not a sprint, that's a marathon. We really need to embrace that lengthy road and go from each step to each second step with a resistance and resilience, and give everything we got to manage the aid and manage the benefits that are pounded on our country right now. And finally, the recovery, reliance, and reformation idea would be a very great message to Western governments and organizations. And basically, if we really show that those finances are not siphoned off by some oligarchs or kleptocrats, then it will encourage those investors to invest even more into our new growing economy. First, as for the moving further, as for the first things to cover with those humanitarian aid is we need clear plans to restore homes, highways, industries, communication towers, transit hubs, water and sewage systems, and of course electricity. These are the key elements of our economy. These are the things that have to be covered at first and foremost, because they produce the most return on investments after that. How can you, for example, build a new Coca-Cola factory if you don't have a normal transit hub, right? So these are the key points that we should emphasize when redistributing our financial aid in the future. Finally, to encourage private sector investment, it is crucial to establish an insurance fund supported by international financial institutions as well. So we have to show the world community, the international community, that it's not only about us who are managing those funds. It's not just giving us money and not waiting anything back. We have to involve such organizations as ICSID, World Bank Group, International Finance Corporation, the World Bank, and so on, to control those resources. We have to be not only open, we have to motivate them to control us, to show that actually we are 100% clear about what are the costs and what are the things we are spending money on. So yeah, the collaboration on the international arena is also crucial in terms of after-war economic development. And also another key point is that corporations typically move faster than international donors. They are key to rebuilding wealth in a post-war Ukraine. That's the photo of one of the factories that was owned by government before, and as you can see here, it's not like it's just demolished. We have to understand that after we build the sewage systems, transit hubs, transportation, and so on, we have to encourage international investors, international private investors, to come here, rebuild new factories, and still work to the aim to become another powerful European country as we were long time ago. And that's the key point we have to consider, that private corporations will be the first people to come here and to rebuild our country. Finally, the EU should nominate members of a global board of auditors after consulting with all the countries funding the recovery effort. An EU anti-corruption bureau should be established. Any political meddling in operation of this bureau will result in an immediate suspension of recovery funding. I want to emphasize that, throughout the whole presentation, you see, guys, that I'm constantly telling about control. I'm constantly telling about involving other third-party agencies and organizations to control what are we doing. And the primary thing is that before the war, when no one in America knew where Ukraine is, the first association that came when it came to Ukraine and what Ukraine is basically like another corrupt nation that is like struggling to develop and has some untransparent regulations and juridical system and so on. And to fight that prejudice that was developed during Soviet Union and that was developed in the 90s and so on, we not only have to be open, we have to like embrace that people who are trying to control us, who are trying to control the funds. It's not only enough to be correct, to be right. You also have to always communicate that you're right. If no one knows that you're right and you're doing everything right, then you're not right. Because no one knows it. That's why I really encourage any people that will hear this presentation or will be involved into decision making in the future to be not only open to regulators, to auditors, and to different commissions that are organized by our donors, but to motivate them, to ask them to check what we are doing, to check what we are doing with their money. And therefore, if we go through these checks, then the donorship and the financial aid will not be a problem in the future. If everyone knows that the finances, we are building hospitals, we are building transit hubs, we are building new factories, then people will just understand that that's the place where I can bring my money and get profit of it. And this money won't be redistributed to someone else. Finally, I have a small appendix before I finish. That's just the topic I want to include here because I'm truly interested about it. Is that we don't have to forget about IT. IT right now is a crucial part of our economy, and different organizations like Remote Ukraine, United Global Task Force, World with the Ukraine Platform, United 24 are the organizations that were developed to alleviate this crisis and alleviate the consequences of the crisis that we have right now. And we hope that these platforms, partially developed by our people here, our Ukrainian IT specialists, will strive in the future and help to rebuild and give their pledge into the overall rebuilding process of Ukraine. Finally, and the last point here is that we also, according to IT, we don't have to forget about tech giants, because here I listed the well-known fact that big corporations like Meta, Google, and Apple did for Ukraine and for controlling and trying to deal with the consequences of the current crisis. And we don't also have to we shouldn't forget to ask those big corporations to help us in the future. Because it can also yield very good results. And finally, I don't have anything else to say. I hope you got my main point about it. And we all have to understand that economic recovery comes not only from the military victory, it comes from the victory over ourselves. And nothing to add. Glory to Ukraine, and feel free to ask me anything about the presentation.
I have one quick question. You said so much about control, but don't you think that we already have many sources of control? For example, the process of financial declarations, but the main thing is that maybe it's about punishment, not about control. We don't have punishment, we have control. Remember the story when a guy whose name is Oleg Lishko, if I'm not mistaken, declared more than 1 million hryvnias in his financial declaration as winning in lottery?
Yeah.
it's so hilarious. And then he drives on a so expensive car, having 30,000 hryvnias of his official salary. He declares so much, and not only he, many politicians declare their money as winning a lottery, as some donations from some organizations that don't even exist. Maybe this is the main thing.
Thank you for the question, first of all. And I want to say here that's like when I was mentioning the wait for a while, when I was mentioning the NABU, the Anti-Corruption Bureau, and other things here, I emphasize that they have to be reformed. Like a new Anti-Corruption Bureau should be established with a fresh mission, new leadership, and blah blah blah. You know, I want to quote one of the Ukrainian business leaders here. I know that many of you know it's Cherniak. He's the owner of Global Spirits. That's like the big beverage company that produces a lot, and including, for example, vodka Hortitz and so on. And he said that basically our country has more institutions to control corruption than it has institutions at all. And yeah, that's like, so I definitely agree with your point. We have like Prozora system that is not working properly. We have like the declaration and NABU and stuff. What I was trying to say about control is not only about control, but about the reformation. So like the core of these systems, some of them should be abolished, some of them should be renovated, some of them should be established as a new system at all. But it's not only about control, of course, it's about like reforming them. It's about like breathing the fresh air into these institutions, and therefore they will be able to control and, I assume, punish if the proper management will be established.
And so maybe somebody else also have questions, and I also want to make a point that it's also not only about control, but the clue word for me, it's transparency. And that also means that like it's about us. If we have a power, we should control, we should ask questions, not just tolerating and keep silence. This is also the point, not just waiting that somebody will control us. And Arseniy, you have the support in the chat, so.
Oh, thank you very much.
So, Alexei, I think that's you, then Tatiana, and if somebody else also have opportunity to join us, you're always welcome, but please, Ukrainian students, don't ignore any alarm from this. About any doubts in Ukraine, so please, you should be safe.
Thank you for giving a word. So actually I have no presentation because I'm too lazy. Just joking. My topic, or better to say my food to thought, is about sustainable development, like as a driver and economy. I called it as our whole Zoom session called, and as our all the process. So I prepared a bunch of sentences by bunch of subjective thoughts, some objective facts about overall sustainable development for you to think about the way how we can organize it properly, because sustainable development is actually a really huge bunch of theory, bunch of thoughts, bunch of processes, and sometimes they even argue with each other. So like we have to do something with that. We have to manage that, to organize it properly, to provide another step for our overall world community to be progressive, to be like. So nowadays there are a wide spectrum of directions and concepts about modern economy, but it's considered that the most flexible and successful one describes sustainable development. Actually, this is not only about economy, but about environment and social. There's also three components that are considered to be general ones. However, they create four more development components, which are durable, equitable, viable, and in the center of itself, sustainable development. It's for me, frankly speaking, strange to see words durable and equitable in one sentence, but anyway, it's a modern concept that states how to meet the needs of present generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. I think everybody remembers that because it was said so many times that it's maybe obviously. So before describing the main ideas and ways of how sustainable development can improve our world, it's important to understand which economy can start to deal with these issues. First of all, it's obvious that there are a number of countries that are not up to sustainable development due to different serious factors like war, poverty, unstable economy, political issues, and so on. Sustainable development is a kind of concept that aims to stable already successful, development through control, systems thinking, and accurate modeling of different variations of development. According to written above, there is no sense to discuss the sustainable development in Ukraine because of war. Or maybe it's not true, because sustainable development actually is only a tool, a set of theories, as I said earlier, that aim to raise standard of living. The problem is that in many countries, even in USA, as I consider as maybe the most the most developed country in the world, but maybe it's not, it's only subjective thought, but anyway. And this country already standing on sustainable development way. At the state level, many of concept requirements are ignored, actually. The sense of sustainable development is distorted with lots of handy correlations, which totally ruin the genuine basics of the concept. For example, an easy example of Apple. Apple 13 demonstrated us a really small box of it, saying that this will reduce. Oh my God, somebody calls me. I'm so sorry. Saying that we reduced the package of iPhone, and now thus we reduced the amount of transportations, amount of CO2, amount of using plastic bags, amount of using maybe carton, and giving the huge percents, 20%, 15%. But actually, if we take that, it's Google. You can see because I blurred my. If we take this box, little box, and we open it, we see, oh, there is no power charge here. And maybe there are no headphones as iPhone used to place here. And what do? You go to the store and buy another power charger. And the thing is that earlier, Apple should have for example, two planes with iPhones, with power chargers, with headphones or whatever, which are flying, for example, from China to America. Now they need three planes, two with iPhones and one with power chargers and earphones. Do they actually care about ecology if they reduced or how they say reduced the box, but they made more products, and they are encouraging us to buy more, to supply more? That's not about the concept of sustainable development. Another example is global hypocrisy on ecology and everything connected with it, as I said, as Apple did. And nowadays in global economy prevails capitalism. Despite the range of successful concepts such as private property, freedom of enterprise, supply demand, there are also many problems such as inequality. One of the basics of sustainable development states about fight against poverty. And the most popular way of implementation of that concept are different benefits. For example, in the USA, a person can receive near $400 a week on average in unemployment benefit. The money on benefits are usually received through different types of taxation. One of the main successful economy indicators is GDP per capita and its stable growth. However, the era of unrestricted personal and GDP development may be coming to an end. Many people's quality of life may increase as a result of sustainable development, but it may also demand a reduction in resource usage. Here is the point: when economy faces with ecological and environmental problems, people consume more resources than their nature can renew. So what sustainable development proposes? Control of the consumption for the benefit of future generations. Perfectly, it suggests to reduce the usage of non-recyclable materials, limit the supply of products which require non-renewable resources, or reduce demand on products through substitutes. The problem of this concept is that corporations found out how to make money on this, adjusting to rules of sustainable development. Now you can simply use worse materials, but leave the same price under the edges of ecology. Sustainable development requires a balance between economy, ecology, and social factors. But analyzing the situation in the world, I can boldly state that economic factor still dominates, mercilessly using ecology and overlapping already broad people needs and wants. That's all from me. I'm waiting for your questions.
Thank you. Any questions, ideas?
Yeah,
So,
ideas better to say. Yeah.
Okay, anyway, for future, I just like a suggestion, you can think about sustainable development, not like a tool, but a framework. And again, I come back to my point from the previous presentation that it's not like somebody who push us to make all these purchases, that we like individuals has a power. And if we will say, okay, you have the perfect iPhone, but we're not going to buy it, it will work. We still have this power, we just don't want to use it. Very often, not always.
This iPhone dies in a year and you are like supposed to buy a new one, because Apple cares about buying, encouraging you buy a new one than making last one more stable, more like more straight, more good, so you could have this in 5 years. Actually, they did it as it was era of 6 iPhone, 7 iPhone, which are work perfectly nowadays. But for some reason they changed their sense, their like I have no idea. They changed the sense of selling goods. They like switch it to selling more, so people could supply more, could consume more, and encouraging also factories to gather more resources to like produce or to make new iPhones. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's really connected with all the like all the steps of industry, because for iPhones also used cartons, so cutting more trees, making more plastic for like a little thing that you have to like to put out and throw it away.
But as soon as we give them this power to be so fascinated by their goods, so we can change these things. And actually,
for sure,
Black Friday, if it's not Blackout Friday, yeah. So
that's why I'm here. I'm not an outlet, which I wanted to do. Like.
Okay, so now we have, thank you if anyone want to join our discussion. I know that it can be endless. Okay, so thanks, Alexei, for your support and presentation. So then now Tatiana, and afterwards it will be Elizabeth.
Good evening from Kiev region. Thank you very much, first of all, for organizing the conference, and I'm very grateful to be able to join it. So let me start sharing my screen. Just a second. And let me know whether you can see it well.
Yeah. Yes, okay.
Good. Yeah, I think it's better now. So today we're discussing so many different topics, and mine is about the impact of digitalization on the accounting function. So it is more about digitalization and actually accounting and accounting function itself. So first of all, I guess everybody will agree that we're living in the time of great changes. So everything is improving, everything is developing and developing very intensively. Digitalization has been identified as one of the most significant technological trends that is changing both society and business. It is one of the most significant ongoing transformation to contemporary society that encompasses many elements of business as well as everyday life. Digitalization refers both to transformation from analog to digital, for example, when we're talking about a shift from cash to electronic payments, and to the facilitation of new forms of value creation like accessibility, availability, transparency, etc. The accounting function itself, as well as the profession of the accountant, has changed significantly over a very short period of time. So just in few decades, if to think about it, a lot of tasks, I would say even almost all the tasks, that usually were done on paper by hand or in any ways like this, so currently are digitized on computers. And the changes, they do not stop at this point. And nowadays, there is a wide range of new digital technologies that impact the accounting function. For example, automation, artificial intelligence, cloud software computing, etc. So it is considered to be a global mega trend, and therefore digitalization disrupts the field of accounting. It constantly shapes the industry practices, etc. No doubt that the accounting function has a pivotal role to play in ensuring that business information is sound and that business decisions are in step with wider societal values. They can help to build some, let's say, consensus around artificial intelligence industry standards for design, as well as auditing and transparency. Also here, we may talk about identifying techniques to increase public trust, right, in these new technologies. One of the examples of the digitalization impact on accounting function might be a possible usage of such called RPA, which is robotic process automation, which refers to the automatic execution by a machine, usually a computer, of a task that was previously performed by a human being, by people. RPA is an alternative to traditional process automation, which refers to software called robot that performs the repetitive work previously done by people. So here, the robot actually mimics human activities. The robot interacts with the applications on the computer and performs rule-based tasks. Here, the biggest difference between RPA and automation is that robot software can interact with other applications. So exactly the way as people would do, whereas in automation, the machine is programmed to do repetitive tasks, but not to interact with other applications. There are some advantages, of course, of RPA over traditional automation, which are the fact that it is cheaper. First of all, it is quicker, easier, and it is more convenient to implement it for employees and to integrate it for them. Software robots, what they're doing, they can log in actually with their own identifiers. They can find invoices from suppliers, compare them with the orders, request and await approvals, perform accounting data entry and other internal systems, and finally release payment at the same time as they record discounts and transfers. Also, an example of a practical application of automation in accounting is the machines that can add new suppliers to the system without human intervention at all. They can also read receipts, they can check expenses, and they can also alert people when there is any kind of violation or error. talking about advantages and disadvantages. So on one hand, this digitalization makes the workflow much efficient, fast, and progressive. So no doubt here, but on the other hand, some of the forecasts are not so optimistic. Here's the example. In 2015, the UK media widely picked up on American media organization NPR's calculator that could predict which jobs are susceptible to computerization. This calculator, using research by the University of Oxford, stated that accountants, right, as a profession, they have 95% of chance to lose their jobs actually because of the digitalization, because there are some machines that can take over the number crunching and data analysis and so far. And also there are some scholars that presented some, let's say, threatening images of how the accounting function could be ruled over by automation and etc. Another negative impact of digitalization on the accounting function lies in a direct dependence on electricity, on computer, and on the internet availability. So unfortunately, there are numerous different unpredictable conditions, right? Some circumstances when it is simply impossible to have access to internet or to work with the laptop. Therefore, it is worth considering such advanced option of digitalization, which also involves an easy transition to abandoning it. So, by the way, the example of the dependence, right, of digital and internet connection is actually the current situation in Kiev. So, for example, today, for me to be able to join the conference, I had to borrow the generator from my neighbors, frankly speaking, just to be able to produce some electricity, to have internet, and to have the laptop charged. So, talking about pros and cons, there are some positive aspects as well. So digitalization, which comes along with automation, is usually believed to bring huge opportunities to accountants, and I do believe so as well. So first and foremost, scholars argue that automation of tasks allows accountants not to waste their time on repetitive actions, let's say on boring part of the work, because it can be easily performed by the software, which is good. Machines also perform the routine tasks much faster than humans, and they can do work around the clock, so 24/7. The time required to prepare accounting documents and for reporting is therefore shortened very much. Productivity the productivity itself here in this case is actually supposed to be higher because the cost for the firm is lower. Also, it allows customers to pay less money, etc. So in addition, the machines generally make less mistakes than humans do. This is the fact. And thus, the automation of accounting thus has been reported to result in a better data quality, as well as data relevance and data consistency. Also, automation would have a positive impact on employees because they could focus on more engaging tasks, let's say on more interesting, more, let's say, analytical, or maybe some consultancy tasks, etc. And also, some scholars argued that digitalization influenced the profession itself as well. So, if, let's say, one prediction says that maybe there is 95% chance of accountants to lose their job, the positive aspect says that it is not about losing job. This is about the transformation a bit of the responsibilities, because there is an impact, right, of the process and on accountants, and they will be able to focus much more on value of some, as I mentioned, consulting tasks, right? For example, consulting in company management, as well as asset management, risk management, let's say external growth strategy, financing, etc. And the profession, due to digitalization of accounting function, will transform from bookkeeping bookkeepers and accountant advisors, consultants, and accountants, engineers. So thank you very much for your attention. That was my briefly about the topic as per impact of digitalization on the accounting function. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we're really glad that you can join us, no matter what. And actually, one of the undoubted pros of digitalization that today we have, like, together Canada and Ukraine on this conference. And so, any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you very much for interesting presentation, very deep and interesting analysis. I know that digitalization nowadays rather often mean that maybe in future some profession will not exist, because digitalization can include so many different actions. So what do you think about accounting? Can be some machine or maybe some like artificial intelligence exists or create that it switch all accounting activities? What do you think about that?
Yeah, thank you for your question. So actually, I guess we're living on the time when we can believe in lots of things. So everything is possible. My personal view and opinion is that I do believe that robots and artificial intelligence still cannot replace people. So therefore, I believe that probably the profession will not be, let's say, dismissed, and the robot's gonna do accountant stuff. But I do believe that maybe the profession will be transformed somehow. So therefore, it would be great if the, let's say, robots, if the software, RPA can do really some repetitive work, something very routine, right? Some calculations. And people, let's say, would be able to perform some more analytical, right, part of the work, and they will be able to work as consultant, they will be able to analyze. So actually, it would be great if the robots will replace this, let's say, boring part of work, but people will be able to be involved in more interesting, more deep analytical work. So this is what I believe in.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your optimistic view on this world. Thank you. So if no more questions, we can move further and listen about agricultural recovery of Ukraine. Elizabeth, are you ready?
Yes, thank you very much. I have the presentation, so one moment, please. Can you see my screen now?
We're almost there. Help me. It's like it's loading.
Okay. And now?
Still loading. Now we see. Perfect.
Oh, okay, thank you. I named my report as From the Black Sea Grain Initiative to Post-War Ukraine's Economic Recovery. Okay. Ukraine is the top 5 global exporter of grain, and that is why restoring agriculture sector is an important part of the whole economic recovery and sustainable growth of our country. Russia's attacks damaged a big part of a huge source of Ukrainian income, ability to grow and export grain. Before the full-scale invasion, Ukraine's agriculture sector accounted for 11% of country's GDP. We have already started to restore our agriculture export by the Black Sea Grain Initiative. This is a deal that is aimed to help Ukraine export its agricultural products from the Black Sea ports. It helps both Ukraine and the whole world to stabilize global food prices. But this deal does not restore Ukraine to the pre-war capacity to export grain. So how can we restore our agriculture sector after war? I have chosen several parts that we have to restore, first of all. So let's move on to them. First of all, it's solving logistic problems. So road and railway infrastructure is the key for ensuring that Ukraine's agricultural output circulates internally and internationally. Russia's full-scale invasion caused extensive damage to the transportation infrastructure, which is an important part of agriculture transportation. Damage to the road network has already been caused to the amount of 973 billion hryvnias. More than 25,000 kilometers of roads have been damaged already, and these damages are not stopped now. To recover, we need not just to rebuild our roads and railways, but to do this according to European standards. We should bring Ukraine's rails and rail cars in line with European standards, as it described in Ukraine's National Recovery Plans project. It is also important to change the size of Ukraine's grain hoopers according to the European standards. Ukrainian-sized grain hoopers are too large for European railway platforms, and this presents some problems outside Ukraine. Also, this can be done by providing some subsidies to Ukraine to produce or to buy European-sized grain hoopers. European standards in transportation system will help Ukraine to transfer more easily through our borders. Also, we need to improve our storage capacity. For growing our export potential, we need to restore both transportation and storage of agricultural products. Ukraine's pre-war agricultural storage capacity was 75 million metric tons, and over half of the capacity have been damaged or destroyed due to the war. It is predicted that Ukraine will face storage deficit during the nearest time period. Also, it's important to understand new labor needs. Due to the war, the needs of Ukraine's agricultural labor force have changed. Our agriculturists will definitely need new technologies and tools to boost productivity of our agriculture sector after the war. In places directly affected by fightings, other farmers require removal landmines from fields and to replace equipment destroyed by Russian forces. Technicians operating new infrastructure and technologies may also require new training and certification. This can be done by foreign investments in providing better conditions for people working in agriculture. Education of new people for agricultural sector requires a lot of time and changes in current educational programs in universities. These programs should become modern and connected with new European standards. We also need to create centers for requalification of already working labor or provide them some courses abroad. Rebuilding is always about investing. That's why investing in this progressive sector of the economy is very important. Recovery process will include the transformation of Ukraine's agriculture industry to a new large-scale intensive model. Therefore, Ukraine will soon become a safe and very attractive destination for massive investments. And I want to tell you some reasons for this. Ukraine's advantages of geographical position make it a main hub for transit of goods and passengers between Europe, Asia, and Middle East. Ukraine has a favorable climate for growing crops. Also, high level of exports in economy and top position nowadays in the world market. Ukraine has cheap and well qualified human resources. So to sum up, with additional investments in management, education, irrigation, farming techniques, logistics, and value-added production, our country is poised to double its food exports. Realizing Ukraine's contribution to the global food security, agriculture sector should be one of the main sectors to recover. So thanks for your attention. If you have some questions, please ask them.
Thanks for your so deep analysis and good presentation and good points also that this food crisis actually illuminated how we are interconnected and the problems in Ukraine, they are just reflected in all pieces of the world. Yerseny.
Yeah, Elizabeth, thank you very much for the presentation. I have like also curiosity question. What do you think? What's the most important mean of transport when it comes to ensuring that the grain agricultural part of our economy works fine? You said about railways, right? But what do you think about, like, for example, sea shipments and so on?
Oh, yes, that's thanks for your question. Shipment is very important part of our exports and transportation of our goods. But like for recovery, our sea didn't damage so much as our roads and railways, so shipment is very important also. But and we and now we have this grain initiative that helps us not to stop our exports, but how to say, we need to restore our roads and railways first to rebuild our country quickly.
Okay, roads and railways. Thanks. Got it. No more questions.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Thomas Gomez.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. It was very intensive and very like a very broad discussion if we're going to consider that way. However, you have mentioned very clearly Ukraine agri economy contribute 11% GDP, which is very huge part of the total GDP economy. And also we have observed actually that recovery of the agri economy is kind of emerging priorities for Ukraine and for internationally. And also you have mentioned about the agri economy relates with the transportation, logistic, technology, and is a lot of kind of infrastructure systems. However, my question is here for you. Actually, do you think that Ukraine or international organization, they need to come up with systematic approach, whether we need to prioritize about the green agri economy or agri economy recovery? Which sector is going to be prioritized? Because nowadays we are discussing all about sustainability, climate change actions, equality. So green agri economy is one of the priority sector as well. And at the same time, we are just thinking about recovery agri economy for Ukraine is the most important, discussion. So from your, like in-depth analysis or research, what do you think, which sector we should really give a priority now?
Yes, thank you for your question. As far as I understood, we have, one moment. Our agriculture sector is now damaged a lot in Ukraine, and yes, as I have said earlier, we don't need just to rebuild it as it is, but to put in it more modern technologies for it to be more productive and also more green for our nature. That's why we need not to just rebuild and like it was before. We should make it better and more positive for our nature and for again, we should put it in European standards for it to be more great like this. Am I right?
Yeah, you are absolutely right. We need to reshape our structure actually in order to just maximize the green initiative and also recovery initiative. Thank you, Elizabeth. Really very interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas, and thank you, Elizabeth. Actually, you make absolutely correct points. That when we're talking about the reconstruction, where it doesn't mean that we want to rebuild as it was. We just need to make something better. And here, actually, this basis of sustainability is also important. Thanks for raising this really crucial question for us. And thanks, Elizabeth, for answering. As I see, actually, we still have only one presentation. I really want to share it with you. We understand, Arsenia, it's like always an issue. And now the last presentation, I think it's also like a good point to finish. Now, I just try, I hope I will advance. Okay. Now it's my time, computer out and video. Yes, I hope that okay, not that. Okay, let's try and you tell me if you can. So can you hear it? Perfect. So this is presentation of our student. She was really wanted, determined to do it, and then unfortunately only this way of recording. So and I think the topic also is very interesting. I hope now it will work, please. It's like, and what? Why? And if I do it less, I'm sorry, I was uploaded previously, but it's still not work correctly. I hope that it will work now. Okay. And now I just stop and try to. We still have problem with internet connection, as I understand, not only in general in Kiev, but one more attempt from my time. Okay, the last attempt, I hope now it will work correctly. Guys, I just want to, so can you hear this? Because
I can't.
No.
Okay, so
There's no sound.
So let's try one more time.
Try to share with voice, maybe with sound.
Yes. So share sound now once more time. Okay.
It's one of the main sources
And
of
now?
the US energy mix.
Here, it's okay now.
Of renewable energy. Let's start. As we move forward in our progress, humanity increased the need in resources to support its continued existence. One single planet is no longer enough for 8 billion of people. The response of Earth to human activity is climate change, which deteriorate ecosystems, augment extinction and destruction. When fossil fuels are burned to produce energy and heat, they release a significant amount of greenhouse gases that cover the planet, yes, and trap solar radiation. Fossil fuels such as coal, oil, and gas also cause major carbon dioxide emissions. The solution might be obvious. Emissions must be reduced to prevent the worst effects of climate crisis. In order to achieve this, we must invest in renewable energy sources, which are accessible, reliable, and sustainable. So, the production of renewable energy comes from resources that can be regenerated quickly. There are 5 types of green energy: wind power, solar power, hydropower, geothermal energy, and biomass. The expansion of renewable energy is vital for the future since the stock of combustible minerals are limited and will eventually run out. Sustainable development, which implies meeting the requirements of the current generation without compromising the future ones, would serve as a great foundation for the human survival. Nowadays, renewable energy sources are available all around the world, including rural areas. Each country may provide a source of energy that is suitable for itself, taking into consideration geographical and financial aspects. In addition, renewable energy is the cheapest sources of energy in most countries. So it is more alluring when prices are falling, and the cost savings would be far greater than the expense. According to United Nations, the renewable energy sector plans to generate 14 million of jobs by 2030. That will be an outstanding opportunity for employees who would prefer to work in the fields of efficiency and low-emission technology. Unfortunately, the war in Ukraine continues, but a reconstruction strategy is already discussed and even approved. The rebuilding of destroyed cities and the fulfillment of economic goals will cost in average $750 billion for Ukraine. The infrastructure and energy industry in Ukraine are a crucial and strategically important part of its development. both by shutting off gas supplies to Europe and by directly attacking Ukraine's infrastructure. Russia has employed energy as a weapon in the conflict. Renewable energy sources had been playing a bigger part in Ukraine's power generation sector before the war. Ukraine established an ambitious aim in 2021 to get 25% of its whole energy mix from renewable sources by 2035. This target would require large investments in wind and solar power industry. Nevertheless, Ukraine faces few harsh obstacles due to the war. And one of the main one is that the majority of existing and future renewable energy generation projects, as well as the high potential wind and solar generation areas, are currently occupied or located in contested regions. Around 66% of the country's functioning wind and solar power facilities are concentrated in the 5 southern districts of Odessa, Zaporizhzhia, Mykolaiv, Kherson, and Dnipro, which are currently partly occupied by Russia or under heightened threat. But let's talk about something positive. Ukraine has a significant renewable energy potential, which can secure its energy independence and facilitate deeper cooperation with the European Union by increasing and improving it. Europe sees renewable energy as a source of energy independence. However, they considered Russia, who is completely unreliable, as the main fuel supplier in the past. Nowadays, European Union estimates Ukraine as the solution to the energy crisis. The potential of Ukraine's renewable energy sector to grow quickly is enormous because of the country's high average wind speeds, rich solar energy, and rising agricultural waste. In fact, a lot of international brands of renewable energy have recently entered the market. According to studies, Ukraine has 667 gigawatt total energy production capacity, with 251 gigawatts coming from offshore wind. I'll explain this later. What does it mean? So now I would like to talk about 3 most common sources of renewable energy in Ukraine. So the first one is biomass. In other words, the energy produced from wood waste, biogas, sewage and industrial wastewater, animal waste, and for instance, household gas like paper, food waste, plastics, and so on. Ukraine can make a big contribution to the EU's biomass energy industry because of its powerful agricultural sector. The government's policy pays more attention to the growth of this area, considering the fact that the cost of labor and raw materials is among the lowest in Europe. The potential of Ukraine lies in its crops, actually, that include grains, sunflowers, and rapeseed. Additionally, gasification is a way to convert biomass into biomethane, and due to its close resemblance to natural gas in its composition. Biomethane is particularly intriguing as maybe a possible Ukrainian export. For instance, all the transportation that will go through Ukraine to Europe may use this specific gas energy. However, when biomass is used for energy, greenhouse gas emissions are produced. Although at a lower rate than when fossil fuels are burned. But like this specific method can cause like environmental harm. That's why it should be used in limited applications. Then, second one is wind energy. Wind energy captures the kinetic energy of moving air by placing massive wind turbines on land. It's called, in other words, onshore, or in fresh water or in seawater. It's called offshore. The wind power industry is profitable due to the high wind speeds in the southern Ukraine. It is the biggest and most promising renewable energy source, which might contribute to the EU's energy mix. The southern and southwestern regions of Ukraine could produce up to 251 gigawatt of onshore wind energy and 320 gigawatt of onshore wind energy. So after the war, it is essential to invest in the source of energy because Ukraine has all the opportunities to compete with other European countries, yes, and to increase the production of renewable technologies. And now we'll talk about the third and the most frequent source of renewable energy, which is solar power. Solar technologies provide heat, cooling, natural lighting, electricity, and fuels for a variety of uses. We may use photovoltaic panels or solar radiation concentrating mirrors to turn sunlight into electricity. Ukraine has also very remarkable solar capabilities, both in northern and southern regions of the country. For example, Ukraine generates more solar energy annually than Germany. This makes Ukraine a very desirable location for luring investments in the solar energy sector. Before the beginning of the war, it already installed 6.3 gigawatt of solar power. Currently, many major cities of Ukraine, such as Kiev, Lviv, Odessa, and of course others, are left without electricity and heat because of Russian military attacks on Ukrainian energy infrastructure. Thus, towns and villages are using solar power to maintain the lights on and just to keep living and working. In conclusion, I would say that the huge wind-swept region and the Black Sea coastline of Ukraine present a significant wind energy resource that may be used to power Europe. The potential for solar and biomass energy in Ukraine can also greatly increase the Union's energy supply. A boom of investment in renewable energy in Ukraine may create the chance for new renewable technologies to be widely adopted. As a result, Ukraine will become one of the main sources of EU's energy mix, which will help to resolve many issues. The European Union and its member states must take considerable actions, both before and during Ukrainian post-war reconstruction, in order for this to become reality. So here you can see on the screen some sources that I've used for my research. And I would like to thank you for your attention, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Okay, I hope it was interesting and it was like very good continuation of our discussion. Actually, I'm really glad that today we share a lot of points of sustainable development, not only about Ukraine, but from like different perspectives in different parts of the world, because it's really important like go out of the box and not thinking very stereotypical even about innovation. So we should think about like new ways. If you have any questions, any comments, you could put them into the chat and I will just email to our student. And we're really happy that today you all join us from all over the world. It's we really very appreciate your support and your active participation in the conference, because this is something that makes it real, that allows us to inspire our students to become better and to make new researches about different topics. So I think that for like the last was me. Everybody who wants to sum up, to add something, you're always also welcome, because I think a small discussion or small last words make all this event even better.
I think students represented very interesting presentation, and I can say that each presentation was very nice analyzed. And I would like to mention, so dear students, if you would like to join or to be in contact with students from other universities. So we will be glad to share, because who knows, maybe you will organize some foreign team, and maybe in future you will be some like Nobel laureates in sustainable development, or maybe digitalization, who knows. So we will be glad to share information. We also will send this video record and link to this presentation. So we will be in touch. Thank you very much for your time. It was a big pleasure to work with you today. And also it is a big pleasure to work not just today, but during all our programs and during our subjects. So thank you very much for everything you're doing for us, and we will be glad to join and help as much as possible from our side. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Dr. Thomas.
Yeah, it was very rich and very interesting, and I believe all of them are going to be very good academicians. However, so we are organizing an international conference, PDGIA, in March, end of March 2023. We would be really delighted if you have an opportunity to submit some papers from your, prospect. And I'm posting that website in here now. If you kindly have a time to look and just kindly give us a call for submissions, would be very delighted to just receive your papers, and then maybe we can just explore it more further. I am sending the website right now.
Okay.
And this is the third time we are organizing the PDGIA conference, and our Exendi School of Management hosting this conference. So you may have a chance to visit our campus and see beautiful Vancouver. Why not?
Yes. Nobody knows. Thank you. Great opportunity.
Thank you.
And we're always, as always, remind you that we also have another conference on May. So traditionally, and you're always welcome with new projects and new presentations. So thanks, and I wish you a good day. And for all us, I wish like silent weekend with water and electricity. No, it's so simple, but it's really what we do.
It really reminds us at how the importance of peace, and how much more we can accomplish in a peaceful world as opposed to ones where there's conflict. So our hearts are with you, our feelings are with you, and our support is there, and we wish everybody the best. And thank you. This is great. This is what education and learning is all about, is getting together and sharing these ideas. So we really appreciate the opportunity to do this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you too.
Bye.